The winning blueprint presents.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. And I had one heck of a weekend. As a fan, it really doesn't get much better than the weekend I've had. I've never had a weekend quite like the one I had this past weekend as a fan. I mean, everything went in my favor as a fan. I can't really ask for much more, of course, other than a championship. And you don't get those in November. No sport plays its championship in November. So for the second week of November, it doesn't get much better than this. And I don't do this often because this is a football show. This isn't an all-encompassing sports show where I talk about every sport under the sun. This isn't what this is. This is an NFL show, and so I like to keep it strictly to the NFL because that's what you tune in to see. But I have to say this. It just went too well for me this week to keep this to myself. My favorite basketball team, the Memphis Grizzlies, are on an 8-game winning streak, which includes wins consecutively over the world champion Miami Heat, the Western Conference champion Oklahoma City Thunder on the road in Oklahoma City, and the New York Knicks, who came into the game against us undefeated as the best team in the NBA. We took them all down in a row. So we're on an 8-game winning streak, and why it's so big in Memphis is because over the last couple of years, we were just a nice story, a team you could put on the back burners and say, hey, yeah, that's a nice team. They do a lot of good things, but we weren't a serious contender for winning an NBA championship. Now we're on the National Basketball Association landscape. We're on the radar, and you can't ignore us. And we actually look like a bona fide contender. A legitimate team that can not only compete in the West, but actually win it all. I mean, you saw what we did to Miami. We did it to them last year, so it's not a fluke. We can beat this Miami Heat basketball team. We're not afraid of anyone out in the East. Out West, I'd like to think that we are one of the best, if not the best team out West, now that we have a bench. This thing is, just know that I've had a great week as a Memphis Grizzlies fan. But it doesn't stop there. Let's continue on. My Notre Dame Fighting Irish is #1 in the BCS for the first time ever since they started the BCS rankings. And now look, I don't know how good we are because you look at the Alabamas, you look at and look, I saw Stanford put some defense on Oregon. So now that kind of changes my whole perspective on, hey, we play good defense. We should be able to play with anybody in the country. I listen to all these guys bash Notre Dame and say, hey, this team, that team, that team, and that team can beat Notre Dame right now. That's fine. But guess what? We can beat all those teams, and we can beat anybody else, and we're #1 right now. So Notre Dame took care of business, finally blew someone out in poor defenseless Wake. And now they're #1 in the BCS, followed by Alabama. That's the one team I really didn't want to play. But I don't care. I don't care. Give me who you got, because we're going to take care of USC. And now the path is really open for us because the one team that can stop us from playing in that national championship game, which is USC, they lost their quarterback, Matt Barkley, who won't be able to play against us. No way they beat us. No way they beat us without Matt Barkley's services. We're going to the national championship game. Can we get it done? Let's see. Can Brian Kelly turn it around that quickly in South Bend? We will see. But nonetheless, my team is #1 in college football. Can you believe it? After all these years of just being in Notre Dame and having the name mean something, but not actually having the product on the field mean something, it's good to see us back in a very prominent position in college football. Feels good. So then you look at my college basketball team, the Duke Blue Devils, who were able to take out Kentucky. We were #9 in the nation. They were #3, and we were able to get it done. It's really hard for me this early in the season to get happy about college basketball. I can't lie. It was just nice to see Duke take care of business. I move on from that. And then, of course, my favorites of all favorites, the Redskins came off their bye. And I have to admit, after a 3-game losing streak, and I had really been very upset with them for not getting it done against a 1-6 at the time Carolina Panthers team, I didn't want to see them. I wanted them out of my sight, and a week away from them was what I needed. But I miss my boys. I really did. I miss watching them on Sunday. I miss getting hyped because the Skins are about to be on in the next 5 minutes. I missed preparing myself to watch my boys perform on Sunday, and so it felt good to have them back in the fold. And not only did they show up, they showed out on Sunday, blowing out the hapless, defenseless Philadelphia Eagles. They're a mess. They're a train wreck. I thought we were bad at one point. We don't have anything on them. We will not finish last in the NFC East this year, and that's really refreshing to know that we won't be the doormats of the NFC East this year because we thought we had problems. We have nothing on the Philadelphia Eagles. Those guys are an absolute train wreck. And so, hello to you two. I had a great weekend. Hope yours was as good as mine because I really enjoyed myself this weekend. I was riding high. I was on cloud 9. And I also went 13-1 over the weekend. Well, 12-1. I have a chance to go 13-1, and I told you on Friday I haven't felt this good about my picks all season long. I thought this was the best that I picked this week, and lo and behold, 1 loss. You can't trust garbage teams. That's another theme for this weekend. You can't trust garbage teams to do anything. You know, you want to go out on a limb, put your neck out there, and say, hey, this team is going to get it done. They're at home. This is a great spot for them to find a way to get a win. You try to be generous, and it never works out in your favor because you can't ask a garbage team to do anything. They're bad for a reason. And just because they're playing another bad team doesn't mean that because they're home, they're going to get it done. And I figured that out. And I already knew that. But sometimes you just got to be able to take a chance on some bad teams and think they're going to pull it out. And they came back and bit me again. That's what bad teams do. They embarrass you. They make you feel bad about you selecting them. And you live and you learn. And that's what I had. I had one of those experiences over the weekend. It's a little bit of dirt. I sweep it under the rug. I move on. There's no big deal. I'm not the one to cry over spilt milk. You live and you learn. You don't make the same mistakes. And so let's get into the Sunday slate of games. Let's go through the weekend that was and go Slate Skatin.
The weekend that was. The Slate Skatin, the Slate Skatin, the Slate Skatin, the Slate Skatin.
So, as we go through the weekend that was and go Slate Skating, we find ourselves first in Carolina. And this is one of those games I was talking about where I went out on a limb in my football pool. Not on this show because on this show I make smart picks. I don't make picks with my heart. I make picks with my head when I'm on the show because these are the ones that matter to me because this is me putting my reputation, my prognostication greatness on the line week in and week out. So I want you to see what I can really do. See, when you play in a football pool, you're trying to win money. So you go and take chances that you normally wouldn't take. But for the purposes of having this actually on record as me making a pick, I got to give you the best that I got. Can't go out and pick garbage teams and ask them to get things done. But on my pool sheet, this is one of the games that I thought could go either way. I took Carolina, and they came back and got me. Let's talk about this game, though. The Panthers came into this game losing last week at home to the Denver Broncos. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are riding high. 3-game winning streak coming into this game. Winners out of their last 4 out of 5. And so they're playing really good football, are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. They come into this game, and I'm thinking this is family business. They barely beat the Panthers the first game of the season, 16-10 at home. And so I'm thinking this Panthers team is going to give them a run for their money. Again, anytime it's family business, you throw everything out of the window. We've already discussed this. You know how family business is operating. So the Panthers come out and they make the first big mistake of this game. Captain Munnerlyn gets a nice return on the punt, but has the ball poked free. The Buccaneers recover the fumble. They go right down and they strike first. with a short touchdown pass from Josh Freeman to Nate Bynum in the back of the end zone, and they go up 7-0 in this game. They tack on another field goal. They go up 10-0. And at this point, you're thinking, okay, Carolina, if you're going to try to make a game of it, it's time for you to do something right about now. You let this thing get away from you. The way Tampa Bay has been scoring of late, this thing could get out of control and can get out of control fast. And you're not a good football team. So, if doubt starts to creep in, and you're down 10-0, and you're down 17, and it's 20, you're not going to come back. Because mentally, you're not where you need to be as a football team to have the mental toughness to dig yourself up out of a 20-point hole and come back and get a victory. You're not at that point this season. You probably never will be this season because you're not playing winning football. And so you guys needed to do something. And in this game, Captain Munnerlyn atoned for the fumble early on that led to a Tampa Bay touchdown by putting 7 points on the board himself. Josh Freeman under duress on a third down. And really, this is something that Josh Freeman can't afford to do moving forward. Again, it was the Panthers that ended up getting away with it. But against the good teams in the National Football League, you can't make mistakes like this and think you're going to win football games. And so, off his back foot, under duress, on third down, and look, we're in field goal range. If you decide to send Connor Barth out there for a long, look, they're right in that fringe territory. Whether you kick a long field goal or you go for it on fourth down, that's debatable. That's up to what Greg Schiano wanted to do in that situation, but he didn't need to make the decision that he made in this instance. Off his back foot, under pressure, he chucks it up to a Buccaneer out in the flats. Bad decision. It floated on him. It hung in the air forever because he couldn't get anything on it because he was under duress on his back foot. And Captain Munnerlyn comes off the pace, picks it off, and takes off and gets in the end zone. And just like that, you go from a 10-0 game. And look, if you kick a field goal in that situation, you go up 13-0. The Panthers have no momentum in this game. You're at the point where they're in the danger zone now. One more score, and you got them right where you want them. Instead, you throw that pick six, and now it's 10-7. We got a whole new ball game. And the Panthers kind of, from that point on, really took control of this football game. The Buccaneers didn't score another point until well into the fourth quarter. And the Panthers just kind of just hung in the game after that. They had an opportunity to score a touchdown. They caught offensive pass interference on Steve Smith, who caught the touchdown pass. It was a good call. He pushed off. And the sequence of plays that followed really impacted this game, I think, because they didn't get a touchdown after that. They had to settle for a 40-yard Justin Medlock field goal. He missed a crucial field goal a week ago in the loss to Denver, a one that really killed any momentum that they were building in that football game. He comes back this week, misses another field goal that at the time would have just tied the game. But if you look at it in the context of the end of the ball game, another field goal at the end of the game to add to that total would have been more than enough to secure a victory for this Carolina Panthers team. So you never know what a field goal means in the course of a game. You just want to make all of your field goals. You never know what a field goal is going to mean. And of course, in the course of a game, if you have momentum and you're scoring points and you don't get a field goal, you miss it. It's deflating. Anytime you don't get points on a drive that had promise, and you might have taken 6 minutes off the clock. You might have put together a very productive drive. You want to see something come of that drive. And so when you don't make field goals, they're deflating. And he missed a field goal, allowed Tampa Bay to keep that 10-7 lead. They ultimately go down the field and score again to take a 14-10 lead in this game. Tampa Bay tries to respond. They get all the way to the 1-yard line. Doug Martin is going in for the go-ahead score. He fumbles at the 1-yard line. Carolina recovers that fumble and proceeds to take that all the way down the field on an 80-yard drive, capped off by a nice pass from Cam Newton to Brandon LaFell that puts this Carolina Panthers team up 21-10 with 6 minutes remaining in the game. At this point, you're thinking Tampa Bay is going to go down. The Panthers got them. And I'm thinking that was a heck of a pick by me. A lot of people are riding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hot streak right now and thinking that this is an easy win for them. I went against the grain. I picked Carolina, and I'm thinking I'm going to get away with a big win here. But as I stated at the top of the show, you cannot trust garbage teams to do anything for you. Doesn't matter what sport. It doesn't matter who the team is. If they're garbage, and they know that they're garbage, you can't trust them because they don't trust themselves. And I'm pretty sure if you watch this game, you could see Carolina feeling this game slipping from their fingers. Even when Tampa Bay kicked that field goal, you could probably see Carolina starting to press. And if they didn't get that first down, and look, how many times is Ron Rivera going to get burnt this year by not going for it on 4th and 1, punting the football only to have his defense give it up at the end of the game, either force overtime or lose the regulation because they can't get a stop? How many times is this going to happen? And then to make matters worse, your punter booms it into the end zone and gives them a head start at the 20 instead of downing them inside of the 10-yard line. Look, at least inside the 15, if nothing else. Don't just boom it into the end zone and give it to them at the 20-yard line. So the Buccaneers proceed to go on a drive after cutting it to 13 to 21. Go down the field, and they need a 2-point conversion. So even if you give up the touchdown, there's still hope to stop them on the 2-point conversion and secure the victory. The Buccaneers go down, and they make a gorgeous drive. And I tell you what, this is what I was talking about with Josh Freeman. When he first came in the league, this is what he used to do routinely. Take his team down the field when it mattered most. When the game was on the line, Josh Freeman would play his best football. And that's what he did in this game against Carolina. He took him down the field, and that throw that he makes to Vincent Jackson with 30 seconds left on the clock is magnificent. I mean, only a handful of quarterbacks would even attempt this throw, let alone actually complete this pass. I mean, this is as good as you can throw it. And the catch was just as good as the throw. And these two are in sync right now. Vincent Jackson has added an element to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. And that's what he was paid to do. That's why you pay a guy number one money to make plays like this. Vincent Jackson showed up, made a heck of a grab on a tremendous throw by Josh Freeman to cut the lead to 19 to 21 on that beautiful touchdown pass that really threaded the needle. I mean, Luke Kuechly couldn't have played that pass any better. It was just, you can't defend the perfect pass. And that was the perfect pass. So then they go for two, and they run a beautiful, and I mean beautiful play action fake. I mean, I was sold that it was a run. I was watching Doug Martin the whole time, and I look up, and they're throwing a pass to Vincent Jackson in the back of the end zone. 2-point conversion is good, and just like that, it's a tie ball game. You go from winning by 11 with 6 minutes left to going to overtime and having a chance to lose a ball game that you were firmly in control of. With, you know, the time dwindling down in the fourth quarter, you dominated this game for the majority of the ball game if you're Carolina, only to see this game slip away. Very disheartening. But that's what bad teams do. They don't know how to win, and that's the reason why they're bad teams. The good ones find a way to get it done. The bad ones find a way to lose the football game. And so they go to overtime, and you knew if Tampa Bay won this toss, with the 2 drives that they had just put together, getting the field goal to cut it to an 8-point game, getting the touchdown to send it to overtime, you knew if they got the ball again, chances are Carolina wouldn't see this ball again. And you knew it, and that's exactly what happened. They won the toss, and they get the ball. Doug Martin breaks off his biggest run of the day. They hit a nice pass to Mike Williams, and then next thing you know, Dallas Clark is catching and out and up down the sideline in the end zone, touchdown, game over, drive safely. Carolina Panthers blow an 11-point lead with 6 minutes left in the game, lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 27 to 21 in overtime. It was a well-played game by the Panthers, but again, it almost doesn't count. Tampa Bay got it done in the clutch, and I tell you what, this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is gaining confidence every single week. Games like this define your season. When you look back on your season, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers make the playoffs, it'll be because of games like this one. Not the blowout against the Raiders, not the blowout on the road against Minnesota. It'll be games like this, where they were down 11 with 6 minutes remaining in the game, and find a way to come together as a team, not quit, not give up, feel like it was never over. Get your wits about yourself. Get your quarterback to make plays in the clutch. Get your defense to step up and get stops when they're needed. Get the ball back, make things happen, and find a way to scratch and claw, and at the end of the game, look up and see your name with their win next to it in the win column. That's what good teams do. That's what this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team did in this game. Now they're 6-4 in the season after getting a 27-21 victory on the road against a divisional foe, handling some family business against the Carolina Panthers, who now drop to 2-8 on the season. This is a big win for Tampa Bay, because if they drop this game, all the momentum that they have built over the last month and a half would have suddenly subsided, because you go on the road against a team that you should beat and you drop one inexplicably. But instead, you find a way to muster up the intestinal fortitude to get it done. And all I can say is kudos to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Great job by Greg Schiano and that coaching staff of having those players believe that the game is never over and getting it done. Tampa Bay Buccaneers moved to 6-4 on the season, and now they are a legitimate playoff contender in the NFC. Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers see another close game slip from their fingers at the end of the game. And a lot of this has to do with bad coaching on the part of Ron Rivera. I'm starting to turn sour on Ron Rivera. I don't think that he's doing enough as their coach to allow them to win ball games. It's not all the players on the field. Yes, the players are to blame for some of the things that go on, but I don't think he's pressing the right buttons right now. As a coach, it's your job to press the right buttons, make the right decisions to help your football team win games. Maximize every situation on the football field with your team and find a way to get wins. And I don't think Ron Rivera is doing that right now. They fall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They drop to 2-8 on the season. That's a bad loss. That was a bad loss by the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. Speaking of bad losses, the Dallas Cowboys avoided a near disaster on Sunday. And this was my sole survivor pick. So while I was a little bit apprehensive of them potentially losing this game at first, I hate the Cowboys. So my sole survivor pick kind of went out of the window after I realized my boys have taken care of business already. We have the Cowboys next week on Thanksgiving. A simple loss by the Cowboys ties us with them in the division for second place. All of a sudden, we're breathing down the necks of the Giants in the division if we can find a way to beat them on Thanksgiving. So all of a sudden, I turn from wanting my sole survivor pick to be correct to rooting for the Cleveland Browns to get it done on the road against this Dallas Cowboys team who is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And so the Cowboys were once down 13-0 in this football game. Amazing enough that the Cleveland Browns, and we've seen this story from Cleveland before. Remember, they jumped out on the New York Giants in MetLife Stadium, 14-0 in that game before the Giants, started scoring points. The Browns tried to keep pace and then realized, what are we doing? We're not an offensive juggernaut. We can't keep pace with a team that can score 40 points. They ended up getting blown out in that game. But this wasn't that. You can see this was going to be a defensive struggle between two teams that play solid defense, not great. If you're talking about the Browns, the Cowboys do play very good defense. And so I was surprised to see the Browns having the success that they were having in this game, moving the football against this Dallas Cowboys defense. I told you, and I warned you that this Browns team has one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in terms of pass protection in the National Football League. And so while I thought DeMarcus Ware was still going to be able to create havoc in this game and get pressure on Brandon Weeden and force some turnovers, it didn't surprise me that they really weren't able to get to him all day, because this line is really good. And I've already said that many, many times this season, that I really like what the Browns are building on offense. And it's not just their skill positions, it's their offensive line. You can't do anything without an adequate offensive line, and their offensive line is more than adequate. It is a top-notch offensive line that is young, hungry, and getting better as each game progresses. And so, not surprising that the Dallas Cowboys weren't able to get a lot of pressure, but still thought that DeMarcus Ware and company would be able to get some sort of pressure, force Brandon Weeden into mistakes, and capitalize off those mistakes. I was wrong. He was back there camping out, going through 6 reads and deciding to dump it off to Trent Richardson out of the backfield and allowing him to make something happen after he dumps it off. Can't tell you how many times he dumped it off to Trent Richardson in the flats and allowed him to pick up a first down on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 2nd and 11. And he would just get 6. He would get 8. He would get 9. He would get 5. And then he would go down the field and find guys. Greg Little, Josh Cooper, Josh Gordon, I mean, he was going down the field finding guys, and this was a good football game, honestly. I thought the Browns did a great job of really not self-destructing on the road. They didn't do the things that they normally do to just flat out and out lose football games. Normally they turn it over. Brandon Weeden has 2 or 3 interceptions. They fumble the ball. They have defensive lapses where they have a blown coverage. Someone's running wide open in their secondary. Or they're just getting ran on. That wasn't the case in this game. They had a lot of penalties, though. We're talking 6 or 7 penalties that resulted in direct first downs for these Cowboys. I mean, how many times did we see illegal contact? How many times did we see pass interference in this game? They really struggled in the secondary, did the Cleveland Browns. But nonetheless, they had the Cowboys on the ropes. Again, leading this game 13-0 at halftime. Brandon Weeden missed some open receivers. He missed a couple of open guys who could have potentially scored touchdowns in this game. That's what Brandon Weeden does. And so he has to work on that. You can't miss the home run ball when it is there in the National Football League if you want to be a good team. If that opportunity affords itself, you have to take full advantage of it. And he's not doing that right now because he's missing open receivers. He did it in this game, and it allowed the Cowboys to hang in this game at a time when they had the Cowboys on the ropes. He connects with one of these deep balls, potentially gets 7 on the board. They extend this lead to, let's say, 16 or 19 or 20-0. Now the Cowboys are in trouble because they were struggling in this game. I mean, we're talking the third quarter and well into the third quarter before the Cowboys get on the board and actually start to threaten this Browns team. The Cowboys got on the board with the field goal. Then they scored a touchdown. Then they scored another touchdown to take a 17-13 lead. And you knew, watching this game, the Cowboys are going to catch them, pass them, and then that would be it. At least that was the conventional wisdom in this game. You thought, yeah, once the Cowboys catch up, they're going to leave them, and that's it. Because the Browns were stuck on 13. And you know that's what bad teams do. They find a number, they pick it, they like it, they stay there. 16 seems like a very nice round number. I think I'll pick this number and stay here for a while. It's kind of comfy. That's what bad teams do. They pick a number and they stay there for a while. They get comfortable, and then the good teams start scoring points. They wake up, realize, what are we doing? We're toying around with a bad team, giving them confidence. Let's start to turn it up. They start scoring. The bad team never really gets back on track. They stay on that number until it's too late. Once that team has now scored 30 points, you're still on 16, you decide now we want to kick a field goal. It's too late. That team has already long gone past you, and you're not going to catch up. And that's what I thought was going to happen with the Browns in this game. They were going to get stuck on 13, not get off. I thought they were done scoring for the day. I thought this was a repeat of that San Diego Chargers game where they scored 7 early in that ball game, and they thought that 7 was a nice round figure for that game, and that they were done scoring. It happened to be enough in that game because it was a rainy, cloudy, dreary day in Cleveland, and 6 points was all that San Diego could muster, and so 7 was plenty to win that football game. But I knew 13 wasn't going to be enough to beat the Cowboys, and I thought they were done scoring. But the Cowboys could not put this Browns team away. I tell you what, watching this game, Tony Romo was absolutely harassed and assaulted by this Cleveland Browns front 7. They were getting immense pressure on this Cowboys. They were dominating on both sides of the ball, if you ask me, up front. Whether it was their defensive line against the Cowboys' offensive front or the Cowboys' defensive front against their offensive line. I thought the Browns dominated on both sides. Even though they didn't run the ball particularly well, the Cowboys really didn't get pressure on Brandon Weeden. And you look at the Browns on defense, they were absolutely harassing Tony Romo. They had to have sacked him 6 or 7 times in this game, had another 5 or 6 quarterback hits, had another 6 or 7 quarterback hurries. They were really harassing Tony Romo in this game. Made him uncomfortable all game, and you could see it by not only the score, but by the lack of efficiency by this Cowboys offense throughout the course of the game. And so, with them getting pressure, they forced turnovers, they forced fumbles. They stayed in the game just when you thought they were going to fall out of contention in this game. They hung in because the defense was playing so well. And it gave them an opportunity to score later on in the game. Now, the Cowboys had a key goal line stop. down at the end of this game, leading 17-13 late in the fourth quarter. They were able to stop the Browns right at the goal line. I thought the Browns had some questionable play calling on that series of plays. So they stopped you on first, second, and third down. And Trent Richardson tried to leap over the top. He didn't make it. On fourth down, okay, they know you're passing at this point. You've tried to run, it didn't work. I don't want to see the fade in this situation. I want you to spread them out. Come out with about 4 wide and maybe a tight end, tight to the line. Spread them out and let's get some crossing routes. Let's get some confusing things going on and see if someone can pop open, if somebody can sit down on a little curl route right across the goal line and you can zoom it in there and get a touchdown. I wasn't in favor of the fade route. Brandon Weeden threw the fade route about a good yard out of bounds. He didn't have an opportunity, did Jordan Cameron, to get his feet down inbounds. He caught the pass, but he didn't even have a chance to get a foot down inbounds because the pass was so far out of bounds, and so you turn it over on downs. But this defense, and this is why timeouts are so important, especially in the second half. The Browns had all 3 of their timeouts. So they were able to stop the clock. The Cowboys didn't want to take any chances. They ran it 3 times. The Browns were able to stop them 3 times and get the football right back. And then it was a bad punt by Brian Moorman right to Josh Cribbs, who was able to return it well into Cowboys territory. And the Browns go right down and they score a touchdown. And just like that, it's 20-17 with about a minute and 15 seconds left in this game. And I'm thinking, you scored too quick, but it doesn't matter. You're the Browns. You'll score whenever you can get it. And so they take the lead and you're thinking, wow, the Browns actually have a legitimate shot of beating these. I never once thought that this Browns team was going to get it done, however. Even though they took this lead, I said you scored too quick. At worst, the Cowboys are going to get a field goal, if not get a game-winning touchdown on this drive in regulation. But they're going to at least get a field goal. And wouldn't you know it, the Browns kick it off. The Cowboys get a couple of pass interference penalties. I mean, the Browns were killing themselves in the secondary with these penalties. They get another one. Sheldon Brown in no man's land, one-on-one coverage. And it really was a poorly thrown football. All he had to do was not fall all over the receiver. If he just stops, locates the football, he could possibly pick this pass off. But he was playing the receiver instead of the ball. By the time he found the ball, it was too late. He was falling all over Dwayne Harris. And they get a pass interference. Really put the Cowboys in field goal range. They end up kicking a field goal. Send the game to overtime. You know, teams trade a possession in the overtime. Cowboys get the ball back and drive down, get the game-winning field goal, and they escape the Cleveland Browns with a 23-20 victory at home to take their record to 5-5 on the season, dropping the Browns to 2-8. It was a valiant effort by the Browns, but again, bad teams find ways to lose games. Good teams find a way to win. Not saying that the Cowboys are a good team necessarily, but they're better than the Browns. They were at home. They should have won this game. They really struggled to get it done. But at the end of the day, that's all that matters. They got it done, 23-20 in overtime, taking their record to 5-5. And now they have a huge matchup against the Washington Redskins on Thanksgiving, because the winner of that will be in second place, only a game behind the Giants in the NFC East come Sunday. So this Thursday matchup looms large, because if the Cowboys get it done and they go to 6-5, they'll only be a half game behind the Giants. Meanwhile, if the Redskins get it done and they go to 5-6, they'll just be a game and a half behind the Giants. And if the Giants were to falter, then the Redskins would only be a game back of the Giants heading into their big Monday night matchup the following week. So this thing could really start to be interesting in the NFC East if teams can start to win football games. We're going to see how this thing shakes out. But big win for the Cowboys. They made this thing a lot more interesting than it had to be. But again, when you're not a good team, and I don't think the Cowboys are that good of a football team. Everyone's talking about this soft schedule that they have to play. I don't see it. For a schedule to be soft, that means you have to be a tough team to go against. And right now, this Cowboys team does not seem to be the toughest of teams to go against, because the Browns, who had not won all year on the road, who had only won 2 games to that point, marched in to Dallas and almost marched out with the victory. But the Cowboys get it done, 23-20. They're 5-5. The Browns are 2-8. And so if you're the Browns, you let another one slip away. If you're the Cowboys, you dodged a bullet. How many more bullets can you dodge in a season where you've dodged several bullets already? In a weekend that really didn't have that much family business being conducted, this was a big family business matchup between the Green Bay Packers, who were coming off a bye and traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. This was a big one for the Detroit Lions because they didn't win this game. Their season was, for all intents and purposes, finished. You dropped to 4-6 in a division that sees three teams up over 500 and well over 500. We're talking about the Vikings at 6-4, who have already defeated you twice this season, if you're the Lions. You're talking about a Green Bay Packers team, which you haven't played yet, which this would be your first time playing them. But if you lose to them and they're able to go to 7-3 on the season, you drop to 4-6. You're that much further behind them. And then you're talking about a Chicago Bears team that you already lost to this season, who's sitting atop the division at 7-2 right now. And so you're nowhere close to anyone in this division. I mean, the closest team that has proximity to you is the Vikings, and they swept you this season. So even if you were to tie them, they own a tiebreaker. And so you're a full 3 games back of them, essentially. And so this is big for the Lions. They need to get to 500. They needed this win to get them to 5-5 on the season and not drop to 4-6. Meanwhile, the Packers, who are in heavy pursuit of the Bears, need to keep winning. They can't afford to drop one in the division if they want to win this divisional crown. They have it set in their sights. They've been playing good football of late. But if the Bears should falter on Monday Night Football, they need to be there to pick up the pieces. If the Bears are toppled on Monday Night Football by the 49ers and they drop to 7-3, and the Packers get it done against the Lions and they go to 7-3, well, the Packers have already beaten the Bears. They would leapfrog them in that division, and all of a sudden, after trailing for the whole season in this division, you would be at the top of the division, and you would have the Bears now chasing you for that divisional crown. And so if you're the Packers, you need this one. You need to keep pace with the Chicago Bears and cut them no breaks. And so the Lions came into this game a desperate ball club, more so than the Packers. And they came out and they moved the ball right down the field, as the Lions have done all season long. But as they've also done all year, they're not able to get it in the end zone. Their red zone woes continue as they drove it right down the field early on this Packers football team. They had to settle for a field goal. And we've seen this time and time again from this Lions team this year, where they move the ball from 20 to 20, get in the red zone, and they bog down and have to settle for a Jason Hanson field goal. And so they took the early lead 3-0. Packers respond to that field goal with a touchdown by Jermichael Finley to take the lead 7-3 in this game. And we've already talked at great lengths about the fact that the Lions need someone to step up across from Calvin Johnson. He can't do it by himself. Teams are taking him away in the passing game, especially when you get in the red zone. Teams are not even taking any chances. They're double teaming him right away. It's an obvious double team. They're not playing one-on-one with the guy shading over the top. They're not even allowing it to get to that point. They're just putting 2 guys on him at the line of scrimmage and saying, hey, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat 2 of us, not 1. And it's just making it all but impossible for Matthew Stafford to feel comfortable throwing him the football in the red zone. And so someone else has to step up. And like I said, that Nate Burleson injury is looming large over this team right now because no one else is assuming that second wide receiver position. No one is assuming that role of stepping up across from Calvin Johnson and alleviating some of that pressure. And so this offense is struggling, especially when they get in the red zone. The Lions ultimately get a nice running game going, and a lot of that was spearheaded by Mikel LaShaw. He had an excellent game. I thought he had a solid performance. He got it done on the ground for this Lions team. He caps off a nice drive where he was able to get some yardage on the ground with a touchdown run to put the Lions back on top 10-7. The 2 teams exchanged interceptions prior to the half. The Packers were able to get the ball back one more time and drive down, set up a Mason Crosby field goal. He missed it. He was uncharacteristically inconsistent in this game. You're normally used to Mason Crosby pounding home field goals, especially when they're 50 yards and in. And he missed some field goals in this game, and he missed one before the half, and so the lead remained 10-7 for the Lions at the half. That was the same score when Matthew Stafford decided to throw the football behind Tony Scheffler on a crossing route, tip off his fingers, and the ever opportunistic Green Bay Packers defense pounced on the deflection. MD Jennings picks it off and runs about 73, 74 yards into the end zone for a touchdown and gives the Packers a 14-10 lead in this game. And just like that, the Packers are back ahead. The Lions drive down the field and cap off their drive. This time getting in the end zone, Megatron going up and making a spectacular catch for Matthew Stafford, who I don't know how he didn't throw a pick on this play. Megatron reached out, snatched the ball out of the air, and prevented a pick from happening. Still don't know how that Green Bay Packer defender did not pick it off, but nonetheless, Megatron made a play for Stafford, snatched it out of the air, got a touchdown. They go up 17-14. They tack on another field goal. They go up 20-14 in this game. And now the Packers are on the ropes. They need it, and they need it bad. They go down the field, and Randall Cobb is a big part of this drive, and he caps off a drive with a nice touchdown reception in the corner of the end zone on a ball that was underthrown, and I think purposely because it was double coverage. You had a guy over the top, a corner underneath. Cobb was able to make the adjustment on the ball, make a beautiful catch, give the Packers the lead 21-20 for them to never relinquish it as they are able to tack on a late game field goal to make it 24-20 and beat those Lions by that final score of 24-20 in a game that the Lions could have easily have won had they not turned the football over. And again, in the National Football League, you cannot turn the football over and expect to win games. The Packers were not at their best in this game. As a matter of fact, the offense was not in sync for the most part of this game. I mean, the defense for the Packers really kept them in the game by forcing turnovers. They picked off Matthew Stafford twice. They forced a fumble. They were able to make the plays to keep them in the game long enough so that the offense could respond and get it done. And so this Packers team, this was a total team win. The offense didn't carry the team. The defense didn't just carry the team. This was a total team win. And the Packers were able to go on the road, handle some family business, 24-20. Now they're 7-3, awaiting the outcome of that Chicago Bears game on Monday. They could potentially be in first place heading into Week 12 of the National Football League season. And so, big win for them. Meanwhile, that's a devastating and deflating loss if you're the Lions. And that all but ends your season. And you're not mathematically eliminated from anything right now, but just looking at your remaining schedule, you have one of the toughest remaining schedules in all of the National Football League. It's going to be hard for you to put together any kind of winning streak, let alone the type that's going to be necessary for you to get into the postseason, being that you already have 6 losses on the season. And your division isn't one of these divisions like the NFC East where a 4-6 mark means you're right in the thick of things. Your division is well out of hand. Your 6 losses puts you at the bottom of that division, and it separates you from everyone else because the division winner in your division right now has 2 losses. The next closest team has 3, and the team under them has 4. So you're a long way off the pace there as well. The wild card is out of reach for the most part, and so your season is done if you're the Detroit Lions. All you can do is just try to win. Just try and win ball games and see if you can make a go of this thing this season. But it's looking like time is running out for the Detroit Lions in this 2012 season. The next game up on the slate, this one, I couldn't have been more wrong about this game if I tried to. And this is the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. I thought this was going to be a blowout, as many of you did as well. I thought this was going to be a blowout. I told you on the Friday program, this was either going to be one of 2 things. Each resulting in a Texans win, each being an easy win, but in a different way. It was either going to be a slow bleed where the Texans cut them early and just coast and watch them bleed out, or it was going to be a quick, painless death where they just knock them out early and really pour it on thick and never really let up and then just coast. Either way, the Texans were supposed to win this game easy. It wasn't supposed to be a competitive football game. Boy, was I wrong. This was the most competitive game of the day, the most entertaining, and there was absolutely zero defense in this game. None what to speak of. I mean, the teams combined for over 900 yards in this game, and we saw, career-defining performances by many players. Chad Henne had his best game of his career by far. Justin Blackmon, early in his season, early in his career, had the best game of his career. People were questioning whether he deserved to be a first-round pick because of his play on the field this year. Well, this kind of game dispels that notion that he can't get it done in the National Football League. He had a breakout game. Andre Johnson, a lot of people talking about he's getting older. He's lost a step. He showed people that he can still get it done. Matt Schaub, and no one's questioning what kind of quarterback he is. No one's questioning whether he can get it done. But he just solidified his spot as an upper echelon quarterback in this game. I mean, the numbers he put up in this game were cartoonish. They were video game-ish. It was ridiculous. We just had breakout performances from everywhere. This game was really big on big plays. I mean, this game predicated on huge plays by both teams. I mean, looking at this game, the big plays made this game what it was. And so it was really a matter of who was going to flinch first. Who was going to make the devastating mistake that cost them the game. I was waiting on it, and I thought it was going to be Jacksonville. It never came in this game. Someone was just going to run out of gas, essentially. They were both driving at just ridiculous speeds, excessive speeds. I mean, one team was driving 90, the other team was driving 100. And someone was going to run out of gas at some point. One team was driving a Maserati and the other team was driving a Hummer. And the team that was driving a Hummer, we didn't know which team it was. Whichever team was driving that Hummer was going to run out of gas first. And that was going to be the team that was going to lose this game. And so you knew someone wasn't going to be able to keep up with the scoring, but man, was this game entertaining. And when I talk about big plays, I mean, you're talking about Keyshawn Martin returning punts and kickoffs for the Texans. He had a punt return of 54 yards. He had a kickoff return of 71 yards. You look at Justin Blackmon, who had 7 catches for 236 yards in this game. You don't get 7 catches for 236 yards, which means you're getting over 30 yards a catch. You don't get those kind of numbers without big plays. And so he had an 81-yard catch that got them in position to score their first touchdown of the game. He got another 75-yard touchdown catch. You look at Cecil Shorts, he catches a 67-yard touchdown catch. You look at Andre Johnson, he had 14 catches for 273 yards. You don't get those kind of numbers without big plays. He ended the game with a 49-yard touchdown reception. And so there were big plays all over the place in this game. And the Texans were uncharacteristic in this game because all season long, the Texans have been a defense that prides themselves on not only making big plays, but not giving them up either. And in this game, they didn't tackle well. They went for the knockout kill shot. They missed. Justin Blackmon was bouncing off players left and right. Cecil Shorts was making guys miss and running after the catch. I mean, these catches and long gains for the Jacksonville Jaguars, these weren't 50-yard bombs down the field that just went for 71 yards. These were 27-yard catches, bounce off of somebody, take off for another 40 yards for a touchdown. This was a Cecil Shorts, 18-yard deep out. Catch it, make a guy miss, cut inside, off to the races for another 50 yards for a 67-yard touchdown catch. I mean, these were the type of things that were happening to this Houston Texans defense. They were giving it up, being undisciplined on defense, something we haven't really seen from the Texans all season long. And so big plays were in this game, and they were uncharacteristic in a number of ways. Arian Foster fumbles the football, leading to a Jacksonville Jaguars touchdown in this game. And this was 3rd and 17, 3rd and 18. Arian Foster trying to make something happen when nothing's there. They poke it free. They're able to recover it. They go down and they get points. I mean, this was a game for the ages. And it all really started when Blaine Gabbert got injured. And he goes down in the game early on. I want to say on the Jacksonville Jaguars' second possession. He gets an injury when he gets hit by blitzing Danielle Manning. Goes down, hurts his shoulder, elbow, something on that throwing arm, can't come back into the game. Enter Chad Henne, who, showed us what the Dolphins saw in him coming out of Michigan to make him their second-round selection and give him the keys to their car for a few years to see what he could do. And he really played at a high level in this game. He matched Matt Schaub for the good part of this football game. I mean, some of the throws he made, you had to take a step back and look to make sure you were watching the right game, watching the right team, and watching the right quarterback. I mean, that throw he makes to Mercedes Lewis, that's an excellent throw. And I've been waiting for the Jacksonville Jaguars to utilize Mercedes Lewis better, especially in the red zone. He's 6'7". He can jump. He can high point the football. He's a big red zone target. And Chad Henne gave him an opportunity to go up and make a play on the football. He laid the football out there beautifully for Justin Blackmon on his big plays. He gave Cecil Shorts a chance to catch it and make a move and get it in the end zone. And so Chad Henne was on in this game. We're talking 16 of 27, 343 yards, 373 yards, somewhere in that vicinity. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, he was flawless in this game. But it wasn't enough. The Jacksonville Jaguars had opportunities in this game. On 2 separate occasions in this game, they led by double figures, including early in the fourth quarter with about a little under 13 minutes. They were up by 14. They were up by 2 scores. They were up 34-20 in this game early in the fourth quarter. I mean, unbelievable. You were waiting in this game for the bottom to drop out. Okay, you know, Jacksonville's hanging tough. This is nice. It's cute. But they're going to falter at some point. This Jacksonville Jaguars team isn't good enough to get it done. They're not good enough to score 34, 37 points. They're not good enough to hang with this Houston Texans team in terms of offensive explosion and firepower and efficiency. They're going to falter at some point. It never happened in this game. The Texans had to rally with 2 scores late in the fourth quarter just to tie this ball game up, to take it to overtime. And they had a chance in regulation to kick a field goal, and they had a couple of things happen. They had a false start penalty on a made field goal that would have won them the game. Back up 5 yards. Then Shane Graham shanks it terribly. You go to overtime. Houston gets the ball first. They march down the field, are unable to get a touchdown. They end up kicking a field goal. Jacksonville gets the ball. They do the same thing. They march down there looking like they want to score 7. Instead, they opt to kick that field goal, tie the game up. And with less than 5 minutes remaining in the overtime, I'm thinking, man, we might get another tie here. We just had one last week. These things are so rare. And yet, here's another one staring us right in the face. The Texans said, no need for any tie talk. They go down. Keyshawn Martin gives them another good return, sets them up, and lo and behold, just like that. And he was having a phenomenal day, and the perfect way to cap off a career day for Andre Johnson. He takes a wide receiver screen, 49 yards in the end zone in overtime to end it as the Houston Texans, in dramatic fashion, come from behind and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 43-37 in overtime in a thrilling game on Sunday. One that I did not see coming, one that you did not see coming, one that came from absolutely out of nowhere. This was a fun game to watch. If you haven't seen it, pretty sure NFL Network's going to have it as one of its NFL replays. Check it out. It is worth the watch. Very high-octane game. A lot of big plays, a lot of explosive plays, a lot of plays being made by guys you've either never heard of or you didn't expect them to make plays. And so this is a great watch. And I had fun watching it myself. Didn't expect the Jacksonville Jaguars to step up to the plate. But look, I tell you what. If you're Jacksonville, if you're Mike Mularkey, I know you don't want to bench Blaine Gabbert. He's a young guy. You want to give him every opportunity to succeed. You don't want to crush his confidence. You don't want it to waver by sitting him down. But after Chad Henne puts together a performance like this, on the road nonetheless, how do you tell him to go sit back down? I mean, he gave your offense, he gave your team something they haven't had all season. That's confidence that every time we touch the ball, we can score. And you can't stop us. He made your first round selection look like something he hasn't looked like all season long. A bona fide first round selection. And so, you even got something out of Jalen Parmalee in this game, running the football. I mean, Chad Henne came in and changed the whole complexion of your offense. And so, while you want to tell Blaine Gabbert, hey, when you get healthy, the job is yours, and you'll probably do that, and you're probably right for doing that, I find it hard to believe that if Chad Henne can come out and say Blaine Gabbert's not ready to go for the next 2 weeks, and Chad Henne comes and follows this performance up with 2 more stellar performances, and you guys win one of them, how do you sit him down? How do you not give him a chance to compete for this starting position? I don't know. But all I know is you guys had a heck of a ball game. You fell short. Jacksonville couldn't get it done. In the end, the Houston Texans do what they've done all season, and that's find ways to win. They get it done. 43-37, taking their record to 9-1 on the season, dropping the Jacksonville Jaguars to 1-9 on the season.